I don't really like spending too much time thinking about the woulda, shoulda, couldas of my life, but I do reflect a little bit because I think it brings me value to know some of the things that I did wrong in order for me to not repeat those same mistakes as I get older and as I try to continue to improve my life and live the life I want to live. And I've thought about this for a while because I was just like, what really impacted my life so much in those early years that I have to make sure that I avoid doing this time around when I actually have an opportunity to make the right decisions and I'm a little bit older and wiser and more appreciative and aware of the time that I could waste and the things that I could do wrong and how they would affect me if I continued to do them. And I start to think about what are some of the things that I really regret when I was in my 20s and what were some of the things that I wish I would have done differently. And I've narrowed it down to two things. One, which I think is a problem that maybe many of us have when we're in our 20s, is just because we're still in adolescence, we're still young, we're just barely teenagers anymore, right? And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves in our 20s because we believe that we should be grown-ups. But the truth is that, at least for guys, our maturity level starts at like 25. So in your early 20s, you really are still just kind of a kid. One thing that kids have a problem doing if they don't have good guidance is that they don't follow through with things that they set out to do. And I realized that that was one of my biggest downfalls, or one of the things that stopped me from getting to where I wanted to be at a younger age. And that's the one thing that really stands out the most to me right now when I think about it, because there were so many things that I picked up and put down that could have been good for me. And there are so many things that I wanted to do or started doing or was interested in doing and didn't follow through. If you think of like sports analogies, they say that your follow through in your jump shot, in your golf swing, in your baseball swing, even in martial arts, like following through with your punches, follow through is so important. And I think that it's so easy for us to start and it's so hard for us to see things through till the end. And if I can give my younger self some advice now, I would tell young Dorian, hey man, just stick with one thing or a couple things and just see it through the end, or see it through until you feel like you've gotten as much as you wanted out of that thing. I think about so much stuff that I just spent money on, spent some time on, and it wasn't because I didn't like them, because I was genuinely interested in them. Like, I picked up acting for a while, and I actually had some roles.
Deep? Why wasn't I deep before, and now I am? Now you're tragic.
I was in some commercials, I did some extra work. I had some little short student film stuff.
How much?
One credit?
And the journals.
Y'all getting any rain up your way?
And I was starting to actually build a real acting resume. And this was in my early 20s, right around the time I was about 21 years old. And the thing is that I didn't follow through. And as things started to get a little bit serious and I was actually starting to get some roles that were paying me, I kind of got bored of it. And I was just like, on to the next thing. And I did that with other things that were kind of silly. Some of the things were hobbies. Like, I wanted to be a snowboarder at one point. Mind you, I grew up in Miami, and I didn't grow up skateboarding, I didn't grow up surfing, and I lived in Las Vegas. We had a ski resort there, but there was like one chairlift and 2 slopes, and that's it. And it was a very small window of skiing and snowboarding in Las Vegas that you can actually go and get some good snow. But I picked it up one winter for a season, and a couple of my friends were into it and they were pretty good. And I was like, dude, I'm gonna go all in the snowboarding. And then I ended up buying a bunch of crap. I bought snowboard. I remember I bought $200 snowboarding boots. $200 was a lot of money for me back then. And for me to have spent that on snowboarding boots because I felt like I wanted the best snowboarding boots, and I spent $1,000 just on a beginner setup for myself. And then I used it 4 times. And I kept that stuff forever, and I did use it again. But at that peak, I'm going to become a snowboarder phase in my life, I used that stuff about 4 times. I ended up using it maybe 15 to 20 times total for my adult life until I sold that stuff in a garage sale. And there's just so many things when I start thinking about all the stuff that I picked up and put down. Golf. I used to play golf when I was a younger kid because my mom was a bartender at a golf course near my house in Miami. And I would go there after school and I'd hit golf balls at the driving range. And I took some lessons from some of the coaches that were there because they just kind of babysat me as I waited for my mom to get off of work. And they were nice enough to teach me a little bit of golf, and I was allowed to play for free. It was something that I never really followed through with, but there was a point in my life in my early 20s when I was going to be a golfer because, again, some friends were into golf, and I was like, yeah, I'm totally going to be playing a lot of golf. And I went and I spent a ton of money buying golf clubs and doing all this stupid stuff, putting it on credit and wasting time and money on something that was obviously not worth spending my time on. And I spent this time on something that was fun, but I didn't have the follow through to actually become a professional golfer. Plus, I think it was probably a little bit late in my life to do that. I also think that becoming a professional snowboarder at 21 years old, living in Las Vegas, was probably, that ship had sailed at that point. And I also think that me becoming an actor actually had some potential, but I just didn't continue doing it. But I did find myself constantly going back to the things that didn't bring me any value. And I think about this now and I'm like, well, maybe there was some value in picking up these things because they were healthy hobbies and I had fun and I learned a little bit about myself while I did that. Had I followed through with some of those things, like maybe I could have done something with it. The thing that is my second regret is that I would follow through or continue to do the things that didn't bring me value. The things that I obsessed about were things that were totally valueless, like video games and drinking and partying. At that point in my life, I really was just all about getting hammered every night, playing video games, and then when I would get bored, I would go chase women and try to find girls. That was a big time waster. It was a big money waster, and it was a big health waster. I think back now and I think about, like, man, how inebriated I used to get and how many bad decisions I used to make. Like, I would drink and drive. I would ride my motorcycle drunk. I would do dumb stuff. I remember like shoplifting when I was like 24 years old, just because I was drunk, not because I needed to shoplift anything, because it was 3 a.m. and I went in the gas station with my buddies and I thought it was funny. I stole a Snickers bar and a pack of gum and I had money. Like, I could have paid for that. It was so stupid. And like, that could have been a charge I could have caught off of some super dumb stuff. But you make bad decisions when you're drinking a lot, and you make bad decisions when you're continuing to focus on things that don't bring you value. That in itself is a bad decision on its own. And I realize now, looking back, on how little follow through I had with things that were good and healthy hobbies or potential career possibilities or opportunities for me to improve my life and maybe move into something else that would bring me to like another level or into another phase or potential fork in the road that can dictate how my future would have panned out. Instead, I went back to playing World of Warcraft every night. I went back to playing Call of Duty every night. I went back to my Xbox. I went back to the beer. I went back to the weed. I went back to the toxic relationships. And I went back to wasting time and money and my health. And I didn't realize that I was doing things and making decisions that were molding me as a person, and how much damage I was actually doing to the progress I could have made, and how much damage I was doing to the amount of time it was going to take me to undo a lot of that bad stuff. The fact that I wasted so much time playing video games and getting drunk all the time and spending a ton of money going out and just wasting money, like gambling, drinking, partying. So I never saved my money. I never invested my money. I never invested my time. I never invested in myself. And the few times that I did, I didn't follow through. And I guess I just wanted to make this quick little video to kind of talk about that, because I feel that I wish I would have listened to people who were older than me, people who may have gone through the things that I was going through at the time, to kind of get a little bit of advice. While I had some friends at the time that were older and wiser, and they would try to bestow their wisdom upon me, I didn't listen, and I guess because I wasn't looking for that kind of information and I didn't care. But the reason why I make these videos is because I know that people that start finding this are looking for this kind of information, and they do care, and they might be in a spot where I was in a while back now, like 20 years ago, because I'm old and I'm knocking on 40's door, and I'm realizing more people need to talk about this stuff to try to help the younger generation, because there's a lot of guys out there who are lost trying to find their way. And I remember being a lost 20-year-old, and I just wish that I would have listened, and I wish there would have been more people talking about this stuff, and maybe I wouldn't have been so lost. With all that said, I hope this video was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.